Welcome to the CLB Forge podcast, brought to you by CLB North American Mission. This is the show to help equip you and your church for mission, ministry, and multiplying disciples.
Welcome to episode 59. I'm your host, Sarah Pencil.
And I am Lindsay Rosado. We are your hosts today, and we're so excited to be talking to Lauren Listor and Brent Barkey. I have the pleasure of introducing Lauren Listor, who's a very old friend of mine and is also the owner of Laurel Creative. She is a New Jersey and New York City-based photographer, an agency owner, and a creative director with 10 years of experience in the industry. She photographs for weddings, fashion brands, products, and companies of all sizes. And along with photography, Lauren is running social media accounts for various clients, and she's also able to execute both their photography and their social media strategy, which is just an awesome skill for today's topic.
And I have the pleasure of introducing Brent Barkey. Brent's the owner of 516 Social, which offers social media coaching and services to small businesses. Brent has coached influencers, businesses, ministries, churches, and youth groups on how to better effectively use their social media, so he was the perfect guest for today. He's also a viral content creator, having produced multiple viral videos for ministries and businesses seen by 10 million and even more viewers. And he lives in Minnesota with his wife and 2 sons. So thank you both for being here. We are excited to dive into this with you.
Yeah. So today, guys, we're sort of trying to talk about, why churches should be focusing on their web presence. And that means a website, but it also means social media. It can mean a lot of different things. So could you sort of go over your past experiences and tell us a little bit about what you do in terms of media and content creation? And Lauren, how about you go first?
Sure. So, hi guys, my name is Lauren. You heard my bio, but yeah, I have the privilege to do photography for a lot of different organizations and brands and run some social media accounts. But in terms of more the church focus, I really love to photograph people and emotions. And I think, I'll dive into that in a little bit, but that's really important. I think when shooting content for a church or even posting content for a church is showing the members, showing the people, showing the motions, sharing the stories, having the proper content to go along with the written content that you might have. So that's kind of where I will give you some nuggets of wisdom later on. But yeah.
Yeah. And then, like I said, I do a lot of coaching with churches, ministries, and also small businesses. Because the thing is, churches are very similar to small businesses in the fact that they usually don't have much of a budget to invest in some sort of big, fancy social media presence. But the sad truth about our society today is perception is reality. And if somebody overhears, like in a restaurant, someone talking about your church, and they look you up on Instagram and they see a bunch of junk or something that doesn't look professional, they are going to assume your product is just as bad. That's the sad truth a lot of people can't wrap their heads around. And churches make a lot of mistakes that are so easy to tweak that I can get into later. But it's such an amazing ministry tool, social media of all types, that it's sad to me that more churches don't use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome.
So Brent, going off of that, in general, how are churches doing at placing enough emphasis on their web presence, whether that be a website, social media, or anything else?
They're not. That's the problem. And I'm speaking not about the LB, I'm speaking in general. I've said this a lot. One of the sad truths that's hard for people to swallow is when there's a new technology, whether it's VR or a new social media platform or something like that. One of the first industries that's the best at making money and doing it well is pornography. Pornography is one of the quickest to adapt to new technologies and use it to make money. And one of the last is churches. I know churches right now that are not on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. They don't think they need to be there. And the sad truth is, if you're not on Instagram right now, you're way late to the game. If you're not on TikTok right now, you should be. These are things that are free evangelism tools. And I don't understand why people get so scared when something new comes along, because if churches jumped on these and used them as evangelism tools, the world could change so much better. And your church could have such a huge impact in the community and out of it.
Mm-hmm. And Lauren, what about you? Do you think churches are placing enough emphasis on that?
Well, it's interesting, kind of to piggyback off of what Brent was saying is, I think, I obviously don't work for a church, but I think a lot of ministries get a little turned off at the fact oh my gosh, do I need to hire an agency? Do I need to spend thousands of dollars per month? I can't do this, but I have to be out here. And these people on this podcast are telling me I need to be out there on social media. But in today's day and age, we all know it. Like, look around at your youth group. What kids are savvy with this? I mean, I started my business in high school, and if my church, at the time they had a photographer, but if they at the time had asked me to take some pictures, during a service or of people, portraits, anything, I would have, loved the opportunity. So utilizing the talents that are there already, maybe even utilizing the people that are already at your church and finding out their stories, posting, even just not to say like, oh, pictures from the church directory, but show the faces of the people. Let me as like a non-Christian, over here at the coffee shop, look it up and then see all these like wonderful, hopefully happy looking people in the pictures. Maybe I click on one, maybe I recognize someone like, oh, that's my barista down at Starbucks. Click on it, I read her testimony in the caption. Like, how much of a connection would that be? And it's so worth just putting out the stories of the people from whom the church has changed their life.
Because the one thing that is fascinating that I read, I think the number is still the same. I haven't seen any updated statistics, but people need to see something on social media 15 times before they actually act on it. So that's why I recommend to every brand, if they are not posting 5 to 6 times a week, they're losing out. Because every time you post, you're one post closer to that 15 where someone's going to ask a question, come in, send you an email, something like that. I get targeted ads all the time for the same product, and 15 is kind of that breakdown point where you look at it. And churches can be the same way. If someone's curious about what message you're sending, what the people in your church are like, people don't like to take risks and jump into new things right away. So if they see a post from your church one time, they're not going to know what it's like inside your church, what the people are like, what the age demographic is like, who's running it. They're not going to know all those answers. But as they see those posts continually go up, they get a better picture of who you are, and stepping in your doors becomes less of a risk to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually think, Brent, that number is going up. Over the last 10 years, that number used to be like 5 to 7 interactions. Now it's going higher as the conversation gets more crowded online, for sure. So because everyone who's listening is going to be thinking about this in terms of ministry, where I think sometimes web presence can feel really marketing based. But like in terms of like the goals of churches, right, is to bring in believers, to convert believers, to make people believers. What role does digital media and web presence and social media have or what role does it have in the ministry of a church? Is it essential, or do you think it's more of like a nice to have?
Totally essential. I mean, if 2020 taught us anything, it's kind of like pivot or die, right? So if churches were not going digital, I hope they're not dead, but I'm sure they're headed in that direction. I mean, even from the littlest of things of, I just kind of can't get away from this analogy of hearing about a church in a coffee shop and then Googling it, right? Where if they doesn't say, the address, like right out there, the service times, do they have services on weeknights? Like all this pivotal information of like, how can I go? Or do they have a podcast? Like there's been so many sites, even, in researching for this, but even for a church that I used to attend back in college, I remember I went to their site and I would always have trouble remembering their service time. So I would go to their homepage and I'm like, where is it? I got to go to who about us, and I got to go to this, and and I'm like, can you just tell me when? Like, I want to go. So if I was less tolerant and less patient, I just think in terms of web, information needs to be out there, even on Instagram. Like, put when your services are. How can we find you? Do you need to call a pastor? Do you need to ask for prayer? Like, I do think there's a very interesting line of like making your social media and web presence in terms of churches for the members, but then also to bring people in, a like interesting fine line, but one that kind of have to be right on the edge for both.
Yep. And the sad truth about social media is when you post something, regardless of if you're a business or not, less than 10% of your audience will see that post. And the average interaction of a post right now is 1.2%, which is, if you look at how many followers your church has and figure out what 1.2% of that is, that's a very, very, very small number of people who are interacting. Now, so you want to take advantage of that as much as possible. Instagram has some amazing interactive features that I never see churches use. They have polling features, they have question boxes, they have all countdowns, all these sorts of things that I almost never see churches use. And they're so easy easy. And the other big thing is when you use them and people interact, it ups you in the algorithm and makes you more likely to come up in those people's feeds. This morning at church, we had a great sermon about friendship. And it would be so easy for them to go on and just post like, hey, do you struggle making friends in your real life? Yes or no? And just have people click. And the second you get people involved, they feel like they're a part of that community. They feel like they're part of that family. They're more willing to have that conversation, and they remember the sermon. You can do that leading into it. You can ask people questions. There's so many apologetics things you could get into where you answer people's questions. It's such an easy, free tool where you have people sitting there eager and ready to interact with your church, that if you're not using it, it is a complete waste.
Kind of leading into the next question, but also connecting to something Lauren had said. As somebody, as part of my job, I find speakers and worship leaders to come to the conference center here and share. And when I go to a church website, I'm looking for audio clips of the sermon. I need to make sure that pastor, that speaker is right for our guest group, or even on the about us, or, you go to the staff listing and they don't have I want to be able to click on the picture and have an email, and some of them don't. It's just the picture and the name. And I'm like, and it's just digging and searching for that. But going into it, what are some common mistakes you see when it comes to the web presence of churches?
I mean, I think personally, like, I'm kind of like skipping ahead a little to something we're going to talk about later, but kind of a church that I'd like that does it really well is down in North Carolina. There's a church called Summit Church, or the Summit Church, based in the Triangle down in North Carolina. And I think they're doing everything really well. And something I love that they do that I wish more churches did, and I kind of find it to be a mistake in 2021, halfway through now, is not putting your sermons as podcasts. Because if literally you could be speaking on any which topic that someone who's not saved, or literally anybody on the internet, could go to a podcast app. There's a million apps, search one word, and that could potentially pop up. So in terms of ministry and how can we reach the most amount of people, why are we not putting your full, the sermons are just full of so much good information. Put that on podcasts, put that on YouTube, put that on, reels, even like snippets, put it on stories, like just utilize everything. I don't think churches are doing that. And I get that it's hard, but there's so many resources to teach ourselves. Not everyone, it's not always the best fit for someone to hire out. The budget is there, sure, great. Execute everything really, really well and really properly. But like I said, and we'll keep on saying, like, look within those people who are in your church that have skills, that want to offer them or serve the community, serve the church in just using their skills for maybe 1 hour a week. They can give up that time and transfer everything to podcasts. And that's a game changer for the church and also just for ministering to people.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you two big mistakes that I see with small businesses and with churches. The first is more general. People tend to come to me and hire from an agency after they hire somebody they know. It's usually someone's niece, daughter, sister, somebody who's young, and they assume because they're young, they know social media. And that does not always translate. In fact, most of the time it doesn't, because that person knows how to do their personal social media, but they don't understand the intricacies of running it for a business, a corporation, a church, something like that. The one practical thing, people don't like to admit how involved Facebook and Instagram is in exactly what you're posting. So when you upload something into Facebook and Instagram, because they're owned by the same company, they're both Facebook, it scans your photos for certain things. It looks at the metadata, where it was taken, that sort of thing. But the other thing it looks for is triggers for things that give the user a positive experience or a negative experience. So some things that give people a positive experience, because they're a business, they want people to stay on the app. And the way they do that is by giving people a good experience. Things that give people a positive experience: ultrasounds, left hands, because when you're taking a photo like this, it's usually an engagement. So when someone holds that's why when you log into Facebook or Instagram, you see that post from that person you haven't talked to since high school because they just got engaged. Facebook and Instagram know what's in your pictures, but what's important is to know the opposite. Things that don't give a good user experience, that it will push down. And the three big ones that I always tell people are feet, selfies. Selfies used to be a big thing. They're not anymore. And the other thing is words. Facebook hates words, and churches are awful at putting big wordy posts up there of come to our church this Sunday, or we've got this great event. Those are so bad. And to show you how bad Facebook thinks it is if you go into Facebook's marketing, where you're literally going to hand them money to put an advertisement out there, they won't accept your money if I think it has more than 3 words in it or something like that.
It's more than 25% of the image. Yeah.
So they hate words because they know it's a bad user experience. You will have much better reach with your photos if you show a picture of people in your church and put the information in the caption. Because if you put it in the image, people won't see it. They'll scroll right by it and think it's an ad. If you have an image of people, they'll look to the caption and find it. It doesn't have to be big and loud for people to see it. It's actually going to have the opposite effect.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Those are like great observations. What are some easy first steps you think that like a congregation who's like, okay, fine. Like I hear it. I hear all the ways that I'm doing this badly. But what are some really easy first steps that they can take to establishing a better web presence for themselves?
I would say pictures. I mean, I know it's coming from the mouth of a photographer, but it's true. Like pictures of everything. Like I know if you go to more modern churches, I guess, I've been to some newer churches now when I went to college, and there was always photographers almost at every service. And I was like, why are they? They're always walking around. But that's because they want updated content, showing new things, showing the person worshiping, showing people worshiping, in the congregation. Just take pictures of everything, every event, especially faces. We don't need, a picture of necessarily someone holding a Bible or more stocky type stuff, like real people's faces, real people's families. Obviously there's some caution with posting children and all of that stuff. So figure that out on your end in your church, but take pictures, take content, and then obviously comes wording and all of that. But we need to see the visuals first, for sure.
The one thing that people need to know is that social media is in a weird flux place right now. Like the coaching I did a year ago is completely irrelevant. I actually give totally different advice right now. So right now, with TikTok's presence in the social media world, I like to explain it like this. TikTok is a house party and Instagram's a house party. Right now, people are leaving Instagram's party to go to TikTok's party. And you can tell that TikTok is having an influence because Instagram released Reels, which is essentially the same thing as TikTok. So with people leaving towards TikTok, Instagram and Facebook are trying to figure out how do we give people content like that. So I have seen a huge push for video content. Instagram is pushing it way more. If you post a video instead of a picture, it is going to get way more attention. You need to be on TikTok too. You need to use it and see what it's used for and see how your church can use it. I don't see as many churches as I would like to see on there, but I see some larger churches on there showing little snippets of the sermon from Sunday that was taken on an iPhone. And the beautiful thing about TikTok is you can go viral in one day and go from 0 followers to tens of thousands of followers. One of my clients, the second video they posted, the second video currently sits at 8 million views, and they went from 0 followers to 16,000, and we're getting orders from around the world in 24 hours. I don't see why churches can't have that same presence, because once it takes off in that one video, you now have an audience that's waiting to hear from that pastor again, that click that follow button to learn more. So churches need to be on there and adapting through Instagram too, knowing that that's where this is trending towards, is more video content that looks natural and not too heavily produced.
Now, I know both of you do this for a living, and you help companies and businesses and what have you. But Lauren, you had mentioned there are easy, free resources out there. Are there any resources that you guys would recommend, just even one or two for at least a start, if they don't have a line item in the budget to hire and use an agency? Brent, I hear what you're saying about don't use, Stella's grandniece, but like where is a great starting point for maybe some of these churches or ministries to look?
In terms of like graphic design, for instance, I mean, this is literally for the budget friendly church, right? And I'm kind of referring to if there's someone in your church that has more of that knowledge that can kind of execute this more budget friendly, way, that's totally the move, rather than someone that's completely unfamiliar trying to learn it. That's very exhausting and hard for them. in terms of like graphic design, like there's canva.com. That's really great for making very simple graphics. Again, not too wordy, not over the top, but if we need to put something together, a collage, literally anything, even just a flyer, like totally away from like non-web, right? Make anything graphic designy. There doesn't always have to be a graphic designer involved. Granted, I can scream this from the rooftops, you get what you pay for. And, you know, the end goal obviously is to hire a professional photographer, hire someone to run your social, and, you know, you'll really see the difference. But for now, a stepping stone, yeah, canva.com is fabulous. In terms of photography, like I said, I wouldn't, hire a random niece in like 6th grade, but there's bound to be in an entire church community. Does somebody have some kind of skill that can be used at least as a jumping off point for sure. And I think it would really fulfill them as well to be able to contribute to the church and use their skills. And
well, and I would just say, Lauren, don't you think there's space in today's churches to sort of really frame that as a ministry opportunity? It's sort of like this black sheep skill. Well, maybe not a black sheep skill, but it's something that like, I don't think like a pastor or a church professional is going to frame that as like, this is how you can serve. This can be your ministry. And I think that identifying that person for whom that's their gift and letting them serve the body of Christ that way might be a good change for your church to make in general.
I completely agree. It's really fulfilling to do something to not get paid for and just do it because you know it's furthering the kingdom.
Especially if you start using those interactive features and having someone on the other end to answer it. I have to back up, Lauren. Canva is fantastic for the budget-friendly church. It's good for like if you want to make great story graphics for Instagram. It's like the free stuff is good enough on there. Like when I've made it for clients, I don't tend to use the pro stuff as much that you have to pay for. The other thing I would look at is if time is your issue, look at a good scheduling software. I use later.com. It's $19 a month, and I find that it's worth it. It does a lot of your analytics for you too. It'll tell you when's a good time to post. It'll tell you what your most popular posts were, things like that, so you can move going forward. Because it's important to see. I always tell you, you should look at your top posts, the things that do really good, but you should really look at your worst posts. You should look at the ones that did not do good and learn from both of those sides. And a scheduling software can help you see that easier.
Because it's easy to focus on the positive and poo-poo the worst, but that's good. It's a good learning point. So can you guys think of any examples? And Lauren, you led us down this path a little bit earlier. Any churches or ministries that are doing this well? And then maybe our listeners can go visit their websites and learn from them.
I mean, personally, I love, the Summit Church in North Carolina is really killing it in all ways. I do know that they have a media team on staff, and so the production quality is top notch. So that's kind of the ideal. I personally attend Calvary Chapel in Old Bridge, New Jersey. I think they're doing it really well. They do fall into the, posting a lot more graphic-y things, and it's definitely more towards the congregation. So I, as a member can go look and see what they're doing. I would love to see a bit more of outreach and more just kind of like, maybe they'll show up on the Discover page on Instagram. So basically the page where things kind of get put if they're doing really well and can reach people. So if someone is searching up a lot of Christian things or Bible-based things, maybe their post will show up and the odds are better for them to then click on and follow and, eventually find your church. Also Liquid Church in New Jersey, personally, I think is doing really well as well. Very good at modernizing it, and they stream all their stuff and their social media, and I know they have a photography team as well. So I don't know whether it's paid or whatever, but they're definitely utilizing it. So I'm like, hats off to them.
I'm going to take it differently and tell you some non-church things, because the one thing that I think is important is when people see a church that's doing a really good job, they feel the need to copy them. And that's the last thing that anybody should be doing. You should be able to find your own lane, figure out what your church is good at, and go that way. So I think it's important to look at the trendsetters, like where things are going. And the one thing that I see a lot right now is, I call them TikTok disciples, but there are people who are doing really beautiful short sermon type content on TikTok. At It's Isaac David does a fantastic job. I think he calls himself the Daily Disciple on there. But then I also look towards like Honest Youth Pastor does a great job. There are these pastors who are doing things with their church and separate from their church as a connection too, that are really unique. And I would look to where like the new people that are popping up and see what they're doing that's clearly grabbing people's attention, and see how you can kind of move in that direction. Because if you try to do what was done a year ago, you're behind. behind. You need to see what's next and what's coming. And if you don't follow those people who are doing the new things, you'll be left behind.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much. I feel like you're just like full of wisdom, and I think that everyone's going to really appreciate that. Where can everyone find you online? Like, where can they follow you? Where can they connect with your businesses?
Laurel Creative on Instagram at Laurel Creative, although my name is Lauren, a little confusing. And my website is laurelcreative.net. So if you're in the New Jersey, New York area, hit me up and we'll meet up.
And then I don't personally use social media anymore, but my website is 516social.com, and you can email me through that website.
Great. Thank you.
That's great. Yeah. Thank you both so much for your time. And like Lindsay said, your wisdom and just sharing. I mean, I feel like I learned so much. I thought I was like hip and cool, but I feel like I have learned a tremendous amount in just
You are hip and cool. You are.
Thank you.
She is. Yeah.
But to all of our listeners, I know Brent and Lauren both listed some resources and some sites. We'll have those in the show notes for you. And thank you all for listening to our show today. Don't forget to subscribe to our show. We'd love it if you shared the podcast with a friend, a colleague, somebody at your church, perhaps in leadership, who needs to hear it. You can just casually leave it for them to give it a listen. But thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
This has been an episode of the CLB Forge podcast, brought to you by CLB North American Mission. Thanks for listening. We welcome your questions and comments. Email us at podcast@clbforge.org.